Hello YouTube, Sneaky Teak here, back with another Sneaky Teak Weekly, or really more like seasonally at this point, because it's been since February that we posted our last Sneaky Teak Weekly. Initially, this was meant to be a series that took a brief break, a breather from video game content, from new game exploration, from analyses, just to have a fairly casual, unscripted conversation, and to give you a peek behind the scenes. Right? Behind the curtain to the Wizard of Oz. Who is the man behind the curtain? Who is Sneaky Teak? What am I thinking? What am I doing? What am I observing? I miss this series, and I want to bring it back. I definitely need to get it closer to a weekly affair, because when it's been months, I feel super overwhelmed. One of my initial goals with this series was to do it every week, on the same timing, with no script, and just sit down and talk, right? That way it wouldn't feel like too much to do. It wouldn't feel stressful, and it would keep me honest as I communicate with all of you about what's going on with the channel. And I kind of hope that Sneaky Teak Weekly can open the same kind of door that I have open in my live stream broadcast with Teak Talk. For those of you who don't watch the live stream, I tend to spend 5 to 90 minutes at the beginning of every single stream doing what we've called Teak Talk. And the goal of Teak Talk is to provide an opportunity for open discourse and conversation before we get into the game. Because especially as a career streamer, when I'm focusing on playing and presenting a new game, I can't really have lots of asides and conversations. It can be hard for me to address everyone. When I first started doing YouTube, I wanted something like Teak Talk, that same kind of pressure release valve where I could engage with the community at large, talk about what's on my mind and also what's on yours. And so I'm committing to bringing it back. It may not be exactly weekly at first, but that's the long-term goal. Same time, same bat channel kind of situation. Again, a chance for me to tell you what's going on with the channel, and frankly, for me to answer questions that I won't be able to get to in the gameplay. So, Sneaky Teak Weekly, there's way too much for me to talk about since the last one, but we'll get started today, right? Again, no script, but what I think I'd like to cover is some combination of big picture what's happened since February with the channel and with content creation overall, what I've observed about it, right? My analysis, what's happening with the content, not just what happened, but what is happening, what does it mean? And then finally, just kind of a peek at what my strategy is for the coming weeks and months in terms of the YouTube channel. So, brief background, and for those of you who are interested in this kind of content, if you're newer to the channel, I highly recommend you go back to the Sneaky Teak Weekly playlist and check out the first couple videos. I think they'll give you a much clearer picture into who I am and what my content vision is. Again, this week I'm kind of focusing on what's been happening with the channel. Since February, a lot has happened. The channel has grown monstrously. We got partnered quite a while ago now, which means that now I have a larger and more robust suite of features available to me. There are ads on my videos now, which means I make some amount of money. I'm not going to go too much into finances this week. It's too big of a topic, but there's some amount of revenue being generated. I've only been playing pre-roll and post-roll ads, so that limits it since I'm not doing any mid-roll stuff, but I'm not trying to make a killing on YouTube. I just want to make sure that it's not totally negative, right? So partnership was really, really cool. That was something I was very excited for and was 100% enabled by my lovely editor, Talk Funky, to me. So many thanks to Talk Funky. Without his help, I would have never gotten the YouTube channel off the ground because it was too overwhelming for me to figure out how to bootstrap this channel while also still managing my broadcast, right? My full-time live stream over on Twitch, twitch.tv/sneakyteak. And so I'm super thankful for that. And then after we got partner, I started finding opportunities to upload more content on my own, not just content provided to me by the editor, but either things that I cut and edited myself from Twitch streams or much more common, YouTube exclusive content. At first, I was not intending to make a ton of YouTube exclusive content, just kind of specialty videos, right? Highly produced videos. And perhaps the first thing that I've seen and observed over time is, wow, the YouTube exclusive content has dramatically overperformed as a general rule, with only some major exceptions, right? Storybook Brawl content has always done pretty well from Twitch streams, because I think that what it looks like on a stream and what it looks like on YouTube are basically the same. But the YouTube exclusive content that I have been making has done really, really well. And I think that that kind of opened a floodgate for me in terms of not only my options, but my personal expectations in terms of creation. So we've tried all sorts of things. We've started doing some series. We did some LP style stuff. We got into some new game releases with Peglin and now Alina of the Arena. I've done, this Teak a Look series. We have some collaborations. Rhapsody and I are now alternating weeks of posting Raps and Teak Take a Peek content. Baylor and I did Bingo with Baylor, which is Spire Bingo. I've really been trying the shotgun approach to building out the channel. And for any aspiring content creators, I highly recommend this. There's a period for every broadcast, every channel, where you just need to try a lot of things to figure out not only what sticks, but what works for you individually, right? I talked about this in terms of the Twitch stream. And there's a few things that I've observed. First of all, I have no idea what's going on with Peglin, but wow, y'all love that. And listen. I like the game too, so it's no skin off my back to play Peglin. But holy crap, I've been astounded by how well Peglin videos perform on YouTube. I have no sense why it's as popular as it is. And Red Nexus Games, if you're listening, this is not at all a knock on the game. I mean, I think it's so lovely. I've really enjoyed playing every minute of it. But sometimes it's not really clear to me why one game is more popular than another. If I could solve this problem, I wouldn't be doing Sneaky Teak Weekly, right? Like, if I had the access to, the shared consciousness of gamers and game content consumers, then maybe I'd be in a very different place. Maybe not, right? So Peglin has overperformed. And one thing that I think I'll be looking forward to is to keep trying new games, to find other games that are really, really popular, that people really enjoy watching, and to where I can cross streams between the live broadcast and YouTube, right? So maybe that's my first done, doing, will do, because that was kind of the goal of this Sneaky Teak Weekly. What have I been doing? What's different? What's changed? What have I observed? And what will I keep doing? I think that there's still plenty of space for me to cover Peglin. I want to do a Crucible climb, which I've already started. It's probably going to be an alternation of, really edited Twitch stream content, as in it's good YouTube content, right? I'm not just going to upload the full end-to-end cut of a Twitch stream of a Crucible run. I'm going to make sure to whittle it down to the presentation part, as I always do, and I stand behind every bit of YouTube content that I have ever derived from a Twitch stream. I stand behind firmly. I really believe that I have done a good job and the editor has done a good job making YouTube content out of Twitch content, right? It's not just necrotized content. It really is something that I'm happy and proud to put on YouTube. And I hope that that's something that you all have observed as well. I don't want to feed you stale food, right? Anything I post on the channel should be good. And so I think that Crucible Climb and Peglin content for the next few months, however much I play, which no guarantee, I don't know, there will come a day to where I say, okay, it's time to put a pause on Peglin for a bit, is going to be kind of an alternation of, Twitch streams of Crucible Climb as an attempt, and also for YouTube exclusives. And I hope that both of them are fun to watch and to engage with. And maybe another thing that this has shown me is how lovely it can be on the YouTube side to cover early access games. It's not something that I've been as concerned with on Twitch, but on YouTube it's really cool. Covering a game as it's developing gives me the opportunity to really showcase the evolution of the game, to be involved in the process of giving feedback, and to be involved in the community process of discovery. And so that's something that Peglin has given me that I've been really impressed by. To that end, also Alina of the Arena. And many thanks for those of you who have been watching and engaging with those. It really is making a huge difference. That one's been slower to gain traction compared to Peglin, but I think there's a dramatic amount of depth and potential enjoyability there, and the difficulties just go up, up, up. So in the near future, still hoping to make some YouTube exclusive Alina content. And what I really want to do over the next few weeks is do enough Alina that I can open the floodgates and start playing it off the broadcast and off the channel. I want to play it some on my own time. I'd like to play it some on the stream so I can really start to advance in my understanding of the game. A ton of other series that we've tried, and perhaps the one that surprised me the most, actually, is not a specific game. It's not Peglin, it's not Alina, it's not SVB, Risk of Rain 2, which actually I've had a lot of trouble with. Still trying to figure out how to fit Risk of Rain 2 into the channel. It's Take a Look. Take a Look has done really, really well. Now, for those of you who don't know all the names of all of my playlists and series, totally understandable. I don't expect you to keep track of all this. But Take a Look is the name that I've given to videos to where I take a first look at a game, right? It's much like Raps and Teak Take a Peek. Basically, it's focused on my initial experience and reactions to games that I play. And it really worked nicely because I did this DIY Dimathon recently, and I thought, okay, well, all of these videos of me looking at these games, these are Take a Looks. And so that was a really great week for YouTube because it gave me 6 videos. 6 half days were done. I've been trying to consistently hit 2 videos a day. Response to that series, almost 8 or 10 games now that I've taken a look at, really positive. And this is a shock to me. And let me explain why. It's not because I don't think that there's an interest in watching novel gameplay, right? Seeing people's responses to games. In many ways, I think that that's the modern reality of game journalism. People look less towards ratings and reviews and more towards initial play as a way to understand a game and to decide for themselves if they're interested in buying it. And so it's not that I'm surprised that there's interest in this type of content. It's that I'm surprised it's not completely saturated. There are so many channels on YouTube that focus on covering games, whether it's one of the things that the channel does or the entire focus. There are just dozens and dozens and dozens of creators who are focusing on exploring and mining into the great space of indie content. And they're all doing it a little bit differently, their own way, and they're all doing an incredible job. And so it kind of blew my mind to find so much interest in Take a Look style content on my channel. One thing that's really difficult to analyze is how much of this is transient effect versus kind of permanent reality. You can't over-index, I think, when you're analyzing viewer engagement on what people want right now, because if you're succeeding in growing a channel or broadcast, your demographic should be expanding and changing over time, right? And so, as an example, if you build just pick a random game, right? Let's say that you build a YouTube channel by playing Tetris. What do you think your viewers are going to want to watch? Tetris. That's what you built your channel on, right? And so if your vision for the total channel offering is larger than that one game, you can't be over concerned with exactly what people are clicking on and engaging with, because it's going to be Tetris until you grow your audience. And that's part of the reason why I've been trying to kind of shotgun, because frankly, I think when I first established this YouTube channel and actually started to produce content, it looked like a Storybook Brawl channel. And that was really natural because that was the way that I was able to keep streaming and also start to bootstrap the channel. That was the overlap. That was the synergistic point that I had access to, especially with the help of my editor, who did an incredible job with Storybook Brawl. But it was not and has never been, never will be my intention to be a Storybook Brawl channel, or frankly, a channel for any one game, because that's not what I envision, right? And if you've watched my previous Sneaky Teak weeklies, then that's clear. It's not about any one game ever. It's about the process of learning, of engaging, of experiencing and capturing that joy percent, and of bringing other people into that experience. Fundamentally, this can't be limited to a single game or even to a single genre. But I also don't want to cast a net so wide that all of the interest just filters through the gaps, right? And so that's been an interesting and delicate balance, trying lots of different things, but also being respectful of the fact that people are already here engaging with this channel and that there's certain things that they're particularly interested in. I don't want to pick people up and then drop them by the wayside. That's not the channel and community that I envision, right? And so as I've been trying everything, that's one of the things we've tried was Take a Look. And I'm super stoked, but also really surprised by how popular that's been on the channel. Because frankly, my initial assessment was that a lot of my viewership, a lot of you all, a lot of my viewing demographic would be interested in analytical gameplay, right? That's kind of the most generic description of what it is that I do and have done and what people have been watching. Playing games and trying to engage with them a layer or two or three deep. And in a sense, Take a Look is the opposite of that. And so this has been a surprise. And it's one that I'm thinking about a lot because I'm not really prepared to be a new game coverage channel. That's a lot of work. Mad respect for creators who are able to consistently engage with new game. But this is hard. It can be a huge burden financially. It's hard to get kind of a pipeline of creation down because each new game is a new thumbnail. It's new metadata. You're having to reinvent the wheel over and over again to cover that many new games. And so even when I first started Take a Look, I was thinking that it would be more of a now and then thing, you know, following up on events or whenever there's a new game that I found that I'm really excited about, but not a backbone of the channel. I think that that's my greatest content unknown right now is, well, then what is, right? What is the backbone of the channel over the next several months or year? What is the content that I can call my bread and butter that I can depend on to stabilize and then to accelerate the growth of the YouTube channel, right? To keep bringing new people in, because wasn't this the stated objective last year when I ran up the channel rather, is to provide a discoverable, searchable, engaging access point for people to be introduced to my content and community, and as a way to support my living and also the Twitch stream, right? I love to live stream. I really love to live stream, and I love it when people find the YouTube content and say, hey, I love your YouTube content and I came by and I wanted to see you playing live. That's ideal for me. And that's not to say that I expect everyone to do that. And my YouTube lurkers and commenters, I appreciate you so much. You know, that's one thing I've come to realize is that they are very distinct. YouTube is not and cannot exist as just a discoverability vector for my Twitch stream. It has to be fed and watered and treated as its own unique, valuable being because it is, right? And I hope that you've seen the effort that I've put in, because I really do now see the way in which YouTube is and will always be its own thing. It's not just a medium, right? It's not just a stepping stone. And so that kind of brings me naturally into perhaps a little bit of a challenges phase of this state of the content. This is really hard because it's been 3 months since the last Sneaky Teak Weekly, and I have spent the whole 3 months working and thinking, and I'm now trying to capture and crystallize, 3 months of mental maelstrom. I mean, there's just no other way to describe it. It has been an absolute mental maelstrom. Ask my wife about how much I've talked about and looked at and thought about and engaged with and stressed over, frankly, YouTube. Let me talk about that a little bit. Let me be real about some of this struggle. And I think that will help us get to opportunities at the end, right? I kind of think that's where I want to get to and end is what are the best things that I think I can do and work on over the next several months. I have been full-time streaming on Twitch for over 4 years, well over 4 years now. I was a full-time streamer for almost 2 years while also working a separate full-time day job, and it was really hard. And I don't have any regrets about it at all. At the time, I was burning the wick from both ends, But it wasn't sustainable forever, and that was never my intention. I did it to be secure while I investigated the opportunity to be a content creator, because it's a volatile industry, right? And so having that full-time day job said, okay, my finances are safe. I'm safe. I have benefits. I have financial safety. I can explore this as a hobby and as a passion and make sure that it's a fit for me. Make sure there's something that I'm motivated by. Crucial, absolutely crucial. The best thing I ever did, right, was have financial safety before I started streaming, because it let me be really honest about what I needed and what I wanted to make. And that got me to today, where I have so much clarity about my vision overall. But over the last few months, as I've been spinning up the YouTube, I kind of feel like I'm back there. I'm back in 2018, working a full-time day job while also working a full-time night job. Because when I first got started with YouTube, it was my hope that between my editor and some decent process, I would never spend more than, say, 5 or 10 hours a week on YouTube. I would take advantage of all the time that I was streaming and thinking about games and creating to rapidly produce high-quality YouTube content, and that it wouldn't unnecessarily increase the burden of creation, right? That there would be so many synergistic effects between YouTube and Twitch that it wouldn't feel like that much extra effort, but that the reward would be big, right? That it would help people find the channel. Because frankly, in 2022, vote of no confidence on Twitch as a platform for growth. And that's not to say that I don't appreciate the platform as a place to create, but if you do not already have thousands of viewers and you're not prepared to stream the same game for 80 plus hours a month for many, many months, you should not be looking to Twitch as your mechanism to grow a channel. It's just not the place, especially as the velocity of ads increases. But YouTube can be the place for this, right? Okay, so I'm going to work with an editor. I'm going to build a process. I'm going to make sure that some amount of my Twitch content makes for very good YouTube content. And I'm going to do a few of these, these post-produced, highly considered theory crafting videos to differentiate. And that's always been one of my goals, to make sure that YouTube is well differentiated from my channel while also showcasing what it is that I do. That's the biggest miss that I've made in this process, was my dramatic underevaluation of the time cost and energy cost of making on YouTube. I was not close. And keep in mind, I've said this before, but I'm brand new to all of this stuff. When I first started on YouTube, I had never used a video editing software ever before. I'd never done any photo manipulation ever before. I'd never done any audio work or mixing ever before. I'd never worked in, making thumbnails and marketing and metadata and asynchronous content, evergreen content. 100% of what I've done on YouTube is newly acquired skill over the last several months. And so I'm definitely proud of all the progress. I mean, there's no doubt. I'm definitely proud of how much I've learned, but that's part of the time cost and energy cost, is that I'm constantly learning, right? I am myself in YouTube University, constantly figuring out how to use my tools. And each video I get better at them, but realistically right now I spend conservatively 40 plus hours a week on YouTube content, on planning it, on researching it, on recording it, on editing it, on, managing little post-production touches, on rendering it out, on managing the YouTube flow, which is non-trivial. Uploading content and updating metadata, and particularly working on thumbnails and titles and descriptions, non-trivial. It's an incredible amount of work if you'd like your channel to get off the ground. Because realistically, something like 70 or 80% of your views are going to come from the algorithm. Okay, that's YouTube Discover. So YouTube says there's a high enough click-through rate, there's a high enough this, that, or the other. We're starting to push this into more people's feeds. That is the strong majority of your viewership. The strong majority. And so that's been one real challenge over the last few months, is simply managing the amount of work while also still trying to stream. And frankly, I haven't even done a good job. I've taken way more time off of streaming and had way more of a chaotic schedule with my stream than I ever have in the past of my channel, other than when I was literally moving states, right? And this is one unresolved problem, to be honest. It's one thing that I'm thinking about right now is how can I get this to a point of sustainability? What's the way that I can batch and streamline to where I can continue to make really high quality content with a focus on YouTube exclusive content without it feeling like I'm ripping myself in half across 2 jobs, right? And in the vein of full transparency, these are not my only 2 responsibilities right now either. That's part of the reason why it's been incredibly overwhelming, because there's YouTube, which is a whole new world of learning and analytics and comments and creation. And then there's also Stream, which is something that I'm quite confident at now, but is quite a bit of work. Particularly, it's a lot of time work because time on air is the primary metric, and it's a lot of emotional labor with all of the interaction with chat. And then also my wife and I have been in a bathroom renovation for like 6 months. We're still raising a puppy, and my family home in New Mexico, my grandparents' home, burned down in a massive wildfire. So it's like crazy city right now over the last month and a half in terms of things on my mind, right? And so that's a big thing this week that I'm thinking about, this Sneaky Teak Weekly, is, okay, we're going to have more months like this. What's the plan? How do I make sure that YouTube is a thing which is building me up instead of dragging me down? That's crucial. It has to be a tool. In the long run, I need to be able to secure a relationship with YouTube, with this platform and this content, in which I see it as an enabler, an empowerer, right? And I think that my plan right now is that I need to batch things more. That's maybe my single biggest learning over particularly the last few weeks, is that when every day is a day where you need to be making YouTube videos, it's easy to be underwater really, really quickly. And I think that if I start to differentiate recording days, editing days, and off days, that's going to make a huge difference. For some of you, you're like, duh, Teak, this is basic project management on YouTube. But again, all of this stuff is brand new to me, right? And so I think that's one thing that I'd like to work towards over the next few months, is to have days where I sit down and I record a bunch of content, and a day where I sit down and I edit that all into several videos, and then at the end render them all out rather than rendering a video at a time, and then queue it all up for 2, 3, 4 days, and then a day or two to where I'm not working on YouTube at all. And again, this reminds me a lot of the early days of Twitch for me, where I just was never away from thinking about the platforms. Always on my mind. I was always thinking about Twitch, always looking at what do my viewer curves look like and who's engaging and what's going on here and here. I'm spending every moment that I'm not creating on YouTube staring at YouTube analytics, at engagement rates, looking for things to hit breakthrough velocity, escape velocity rather, and engaging with comments. And that's the other big thing that I have to start to be careful with, because frankly, while 99.9% of you have been incredibly lovely and engaged and charitable and wonderful in the comments, I create digitally, right? And even the most well-intentioned, earnest person will sometimes leave a comment that'll really wreck your whole day. And no matter how battle-hardened you think you are, no matter how much you've created content on the internet, when enough people have access to your time and to your mind share, they find a way, right? And so this is something that I'm thinking about, not just sustainability in time, but sustainability in terms of my mental energy and my emotional energy, safe boundaries, right? So that when I do engage, I can do so eagerly and in good spirit. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of the biggest thing that I'm thinking about over the next few months is we have some established things that are working. Teak-a-Look is doing incredibly well, better than I thought it would. I thought it was too saturated, but there must be something about the way that I look at new games that people enjoy. And so I'll keep doing that at a reasonable cadence. It's not going to be the backbone of the stream, or rather the channel, but it's something that I want to do on and off. I love to explore new games, and it really is perfect YouTube content. Honestly, exploring new games in some ways is almost better YouTube content than it is Twitch content, because the Twitch content is more about playing for a longer time, right? And so just quickly taking a look at Apico as an example, perfect for YouTube. I loved doing that. Peglin will continue to receive episodes. I want to do a full Crucible climb. Like I said, probably alternating between Twitch and YouTube. I've got to find a way to start to make this a little bit more sustainable, because frankly, the rate that I'm working on YouTube is unsustainable. I can do it for quite a while longer. I could do it for a year, but at some point in time, we need to hit a happy medium. And so improving with the tools, but also finding opportunities for, creational synergy across Twitch and YouTube, I think will be key. And I do think that Peglin is one of these series which has a chance to be in both places at once. Alina of the Arena, I'm really excited to play more of. I'll probably do, the crazy burn run next or whatever. And then after that, I'm not sure. I'm still in a very open-minded phase in terms of looking for games and types of content that people appreciate, frankly, on YouTube. I'm still coming to understand the space. And so that's where my head's at. Wow, like I said, mental maelstrom, just a quick breather. A lot to cover. I'm going to have to start doing these more often. But I think that that's a decent overview of a lot of what's happened over the last few months, what I've been watching, what's been performing well. Oh, and by the way, I didn't really give it a lot of airtime, but the channel has grown hand over fist. I mean, wild, particularly the last couple months, wild amount of growth in terms of engagement, in terms of viewership, in terms of subscriber count. So all of the newer folks, if you're interested and committed enough to be here in this video right now, 30 minutes in, thank you so much. I'm humbled by the attention that you're giving to this channel and to the things that I make. And I hope that I can continue to work hard enough to do well by you and by the community, to make good on that invisible social contract that we share, in which I promise to do my best to make good content so long as you continue to engage in good spirit, right? That's the invisible ink. And so thanks for joining. I so hope that you've liked what the channel has made so far. And maybe as kind of an exiting note, I want to open that door again. At the beginning of this Sneaky Teak Weekly, I said, hey, I kind of want this to work like Teak Talk, but tuned for YouTube. Instead of a literal live stream chat, it's a weekly update in which my focus is on providing access to the man behind the mirror, the man behind the curtain, right? Access to the behind the scenes, and also to open a dialogue. I read all the comments. And so if there are particular questions or thoughts that you have that you think might be interesting for me to address in a future Sneaky Teak Weekly, let me know. I would love to kind of make this into a revolving door. Coming up, a few things. Other than the series that I've been talking about on the YouTube side and whatever else we discover, which I've got notes right next to me about what I'd like to record. I have this Sunday on the stream. Okay, so that's Sunday, May 29th. Our next charity stream, benefiting survivors.org. And so if you would like to chill and enjoy the end of a weekend and watch what should hopefully be a pretty fun event, and particularly if you do have any spare funds, if you have a charity budget or whatever, highly encourage you to stop by, check it out, and potentially support survivors.org as we do that stream. So this is something this year that I'm doing once a quarter. I'm doing charity streams about once a quarter. And this is one of the organizations that I'm benefiting. As usual, there'll be links down below with basic information about everything I've talked about the charity. And hey, one more parting note, I guess. It's not just been YouTube and Twitch. It's also been Patreon. Those, I think, together form the complete picture, right? The triangulation of my content vision over the next several years. Twitch, the place for me to engage with longer form play and live interaction with games. YouTube, the place for me to showcase games, to dive deep into very focused experiences, and hopefully over time, more highly produced theory crafting style content. And Patreon, frankly, the place for direct community interaction and financing. And I know I said I wouldn't talk about it very much, but truthfully, I don't think that Twitch or YouTube are the secure way in order to make a living with content creation in 2022. I think that Patreon is the answer. Obviously, I support any money that you throw towards the channel. wherever it comes, whether it's a sub or YouTube super thanks or whatever. But Patreon really is an incredible, incredible way to support the channel. It's a better take. It's more consistent. And so if you are interested in pledging support for the channel via Patreon, there's a link for that down below as well. Okay, I promised that these would be fairly casual, and so if I go any longer than this, it's going to start to look less like a Sneaky Teak Weekly and more like a seminar. So I'm going to have to hold off that mental maelstrom for one more week for whatever I come up with next. I'm hoping that this constitutes a decent high-level overview of all what has come and gone since February. And starting in the weeks to come with Sneaky Teak Weekly, we can have, slightly more focused chats about more singular, well-contained ideas instead of this wild survey of everything that's happened. So thank you so much, folks, for joining me. I hope that you appreciate these peeks behind the curtain. In the weekend to come, look forward to more of your favorite games on the channel. And otherwise, just have a lovely weekend. I've been Sneaky Teak. Catch you all again soon. Cheers for now.